there was a lot of continued protest against President Trump's immigration crackdown, and in particular, the tactics and presence of ICE in our region. We had four protesters arrested outside the Burlington ICE detention facility. We had a big protest in Boston Harbor. It was dubbed the ICE Tea Party. It took place on the anniversary of the original Tea Party. And we had Governor Healey objecting to the use of Hanscom Airfield to transport detainees. What do you make of all this?
What I see connecting the dots between these events is people attempting in different ways to maintain a sense of agency at a time when it seems like they really can't do anything to stop the Trump administration from continuing to do what it's been doing vis-a-vis detaining and deporting people who are not here legally, and in some cases, people who are here legally. It's easy, I think, to be cynical depending on your point of view about the power of any of these one actions, just showing up at the Burlington ICE facility with care products and being arrested for trespassing. Is it a needle mover? Probably not. It's probably not going to change the way the Trump administration does business. Ditto the ICE Tea Party, which was a very clever event, but it's probably not going to stop the Trump administration from doing what they've been doing. And even Governor Healey's letter, Massport, has said that they have no say effectively in who uses Hanscom Air Force or the Hanscom Air Base. So that's probably not going to change anything either. But I think in this moment that we're in, feeling like you can do absolutely nothing, if you're on the left, is probably one of the biggest political dangers that you face. So if you flex your muscles in these ways, it might not make an immediate change, but it's a reminder again that you actually can do more than nothing. You could do something.
Right. So for the people who want to, who strenuously object to the immigration crackdown and the way it's being done, it's almost like a personal thing, it sounds like, not just a political thing.
Yeah, I think there's almost a cathartic element to it, to say, we will stand up and be heard, voicing our conviction that this is not okay. When I heard about the Burlington event, the people showing up to bring personal care supplies to detainees at the Burlington ICE detention facility, I was reminded of protests that occurred at the height of concerns about nuclear war between the United States and the Soviet Union. Trespassing arrests were very common there, people going on to military bases that they weren't supposed to be on to say, we got to rein in this technology. It's going to kill everyone if we don't pull back from the brink. And again, with those protests, any single one of them you could say didn't make a huge difference. But looking back, we still haven't dealt with the nuclear threat completely, but looking back, it's, I think, tempting to say that those protesters were on the right side of history.
Yeah. And I think people are, it's interesting that it's not just walking around with signs.
Mm-hmm.
As clever and as interesting and maybe even as emotional as that is at times for people.
But acting.
But
there's something about the holding of a sign. It's an action. If you go to a No Kings protest
right.
and you hold up a sign, but there is a passivity of it or to it compared to the things that we've been talking about here.
Right, like actually specifically saying, wow, we hear people are being mistreated inside this detention facility, that they don't have care products, that they're sleeping on the floor. And
we're going to attempt to act, and
yes.
there are going to be legal consequences,
right?
And we'll weather those consequences.
Yeah, like I was talking to a friend and just saying, well, let's be clear. I don't think anybody who showed up there thought they were going to get a bedroll or menstrual products inside ICE, that they were going to go, okay, fine, we'll bring them into the facility.
No, it was a symbolic action.
But the specificity of that, I think, was
excellent point. Excellent point. A reminder that these people don't have these incredibly basic goods.
Or allegedly don't, yeah.
Allegedly don't.
Yeah, I don't know if we know for sure, but that's what we've been hearing.
Well, according to multiple reports from people who've been held in these facilities,
clearly.
Conditions are pretty bleak.
Clearly. And the ICE Tea Party, again, maybe not as specifically related to any one particular thing in that way, but again, really the planning that went into that on the anniversary 252 years ago of the first Tea Party.
Well, the anniversary is too good to pass up as a hook. And obviously throwing ICE in Boston Harbor is, there's a clever double entendre at play there.
Yes.
So, again, it's something that makes people sit up and take notice at a moment where they may be getting inured to debates about what the Trump administration is doing. It's very easy, I think, to just sort of get used to what's happening and tune out.
Yeah. And from the Trump administration to really President Trump very specifically now, we had what was a very personal tragedy in LA, the death of Carl Reiner and his wife. His son was accused of stabbing them to death. And this really, I'm not judging or putting my thumb on the scale to call it a venomous social post from the president.
I don't think you are. I mean, I think what we saw in the social media post was basically Trump celebrating and taking kind of gleeful delight in what, to the eyes of most people, was a horrific tragedy. He described Reiner as tortured and struggling, but once very talented, said Reiner's Trump derangement syndrome, in all capital letters, was responsible for his death due to the anger it caused others. He also said Reiner's obvious paranoia had reached new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. So I think that's why I've seen people asking, why did this make such an impact? And I think the answer is because we haven't seen the president celebrate the violent death of someone prominent before. This is new. So yeah, a lot of Republicans in Massachusetts have weighed in. The strongest reaction to my ear came from Brian Shortsleeve. That surprised me because he is among the more Trump-aligned people in the Republican establishment. He's running for governor compared to Mike Keneally, who jumped in the race at the same time as him. He's been more supportive of Trump and his policies. And here's what Shortsleeve had to say. His comments, Trump's comments, were wrong and deeply disappointing. This was a terrible tragedy, and the only appropriate reaction is to put politics aside and offer sympathy to the family. Mike Minogue, who has also said that he's supported Trump in the past, offered a slightly more restrained reaction. He said, violence, grief, loss, and justice don't know a political party. I wish these comments were not made. So he used a passive construction there, but he's still calling out the president. He said he and his wife pray for the Reiner family and their friends at this moment. And I do think that this is going to be remembered perhaps as an inflection point, because we've seen national Republicans condemn the president's comments too. Remember when Trump joked about how his supporters were very passionate and he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and there'd be no consequences? I think this may be remembered as the moment at which we started to see that, in fact, Trump cannot say whatever he wants in whatever context he wants. And if so, that's a big deal.
GBH politics reporter Adam Reilly, thank you as always.
Thank you, Mark.